Hello viewers, welcome to the Political Ringside. I'm your host Kelvin Waswa, and today we are going to dive into the political things that happen in our country. Today we are joined by a young vibrant leader by the name Cyphrine Wanyama, the organizing secretary Langata constituency. Karibu sana bwana Cyphrine kwenye the Political Ringside.
Thank you Kevin, and I'm glad to be here. Being a very eventful day in ODM party,
yes,
I'll be glad to contribute to our political process and what actually is happening in ODM.
Are you ready for the interview?
I'm very ready.
So let me just go straight to the point.
Yes.
Yesterday we saw a lot of things happening in our country. We saw members of ODM meeting in Mombasa, and from what happened in Mombasa, we saw you guys asking one of your Secretary General, Edwin Sifuna. What do you benefit from asking Sifuna from ODM? This is your camera.
Well, Kevin, ODM is a very huge movement. It's a movement that has been here for over 20 years.
Yes.
And it's a party that is built on structures. And these structures include the National Executive Committee, which is led by the acting party leader, Raila Odinga. And it is the highest party decision-making organ, apart from the National Delegates Conference. The decision was arrived at after perhaps deliberations within the NEC, and we await for further guidance on the same, as on whether Sifuna ceased to be the ODM SG. Sifuna is still the ODM SG until there is a National Delegates Conference to ratify the decision of the National Executive Committee.
Yes. Speaking on the same, Mr. Cyphrine, I've just seen the SecGen holding a press conference saying that he's still the duly elected Secretary General of the party. What can you say about that?
Well, I agree. Sifuna is still the ODM SG as it is, because what happens is when you are suspended,
yes,
someone comes in acting capacity. The one we have today, Honorable Catherine Omanyo, is in acting capacity,
yes,
to Sifuna. And Sifuna can only be removed an SG after we have a delegates conference, which has been announced on 17 March. And the delegates ratify the decision of the National Executive Committee of removing Sifuna. But until then,
yes,
Sifuna remains an embattled ODM Secretary General.
These are to our viewers. You have been told that Sifuna remains
an embattled ODM Secretary General.
Yes. So the next question I'll ask our guest is: do you think the National Executive Council followed the right procedure to remove Sifuna from the ODM Secretary General?
Well, the ODM Constitution, I think, is something that many people must familiarize themselves with, because the ODM Constitution gives the National Executive Council the powers to make any ratification in terms of party office holders, and the effects can make they take effect immediately, depending on how the party feels about an individual who is holding an office. So for me, the National Executive Committee has the powers within the ODM Constitution to censure and to discipline any member who holds an office. Remember, Edwin Sifuna is not just an ODM ordinary member. He is the Secretary General of ODM, and yes, therefore, yes, him as a member, he is entitled to his opinion, but as a Secretary General, he is bound by the party organ decision, and therefore the ODM NEC followed the due process of removal of Edwin Sifuna.
That's a great question. So why now? Why now? No, not wait the other time, just now.
Well, for all of us, we've seen what has been happening in ODM, and ODM as a party, as you said, it has structures. The Secretary General for the past few months has expressed his own personal opinion against what the party decision has been made. He has been categorical on the matters of the broad-based government. He has been categorical on the matters of ODM in terms of how we are going to ensure that the government is able to implement the 10-point agenda. Yes. And he has also absconded duty. For the last 2 NEC meetings, he has not been able to attend any of the meetings. Yes. And if he had any of his own personal views, he's free to attend the NEC meeting, and he is able to table his own objections during the NEC meeting. But the moment people leave the boardroom and come outside, we all adopt the party position. So you cannot fight the party position, then continue to claim to speak for the party. As for ODM, you cannot speak your personal view. You speak the views of the organ of the party as a Secretary General.
And Mr. Wanyama, from where you sit, what triggered this decision to be made at the right time, like this time? Why not January, May, not December? Why now? And what triggered that decision? Well,
ODM as a party, as I've said, it needs coherent in terms of communication.
Yes.
Today, in absence of our party leader,
yes,
the late Raila Odinga, ODM faces one of its biggest challenge ever in history for the past 20 years. And therefore, this is not the moment whereby party organs or party officials have to speak from two sides of the mouth.
Yes.
Party officials ought to speak coherently and in one voice of the party position. So for us to avoid the divisions that we see in the party, and for us to not look like we are confused party which has different party positions, it was worthy that Edwin Sifuna relinquishes the office and is given to someone who is going to be bound by the party organ decisions going forward.
Yes. And on the ground, we have the naysayers. They've been saying that Sifuna was too independent to the party leadership. What is your take on that?
Well, you see, in politics, if you look at the history of ODM, Sifuna is not the first consequential Secretary General of ODM. We had Babu Namwamba, who was its predecessor. And we must go back to history and ask ourselves, how did Sifuna get himself as a Secretary General into the office? Babu Sifuna came in a coup d'etat against Honorable Babu Namwamba. So he cannot claim to say that, he has his own funds. There is no funds.
Yes.
These are ODM members.
Yes.
ODM as a party has members. There is no member registered to a party called Edwin Sifuna.
Yes.
None. All members have registered to a party called ODM. And therefore, it is within his right and within the rights of those who feel for him and those who feel sorry for him.
Yes.
I also feel sorry for him because he's a vibrant and a very important resource to ODM. But there is no one who is bigger than ODM as a party.
Yes.
All of us have to live to what ODM organs have made a decision, and all of us are subject to the same due process. Should we not comply with what ODM expect us?
Yes. That's well elaborated, Mr. Wanyama. As a youth leader in Langata, yes, we know that you are the organizing secretary of ODM,
yes,
in Langata constituency, where your MP Heavy J just declared the other day he want to unseat Sifuna. Do you think that's possible?
Well, in politics, I say there's nothing impossible in politics.
Yeah.
In 2022, when we gave Jalango the ticket to run as an MP,
yes,
many people doubted us, and many people doubted ODM decision. But we went on and campaigned, and eventually we were able to win not only the MP position, but we were able to win all the 5 wards in Langata under ODM. And Langata remains firmly under ODM.
Yes.
As for Jalango choosing to run for senator, I think for me, I would say that is his own personal decision, and he's free to explore and he's free to dare to dream. However, it will also be an uphill task. To galvanize Nairobi over 700,000 votes, which you require, according to the past elections, to be elected as a senator. So what I can say is I wish him well, and he has dared to dream. Let him go and face the people.
And do you think Jalango has delivered for the Langata people?
Yes. For me, one of the roles of an MP, one is legislation.
Yes.
And I will say that when you're first time in parliament, you don't get as much time to speak as those who have been in parliament before, those in leadership.
Yes.
But he has tried. In terms of utilization of CDF, I will say Jalango has done exemplary well in history of Langata.
Yeah.
More than any other MP past Raila Odinga. Because if you go to Langata today, in every ward, you will see where CDF has been utilized. You will see where CDF has been used. You will be able to account for value for money for the people of Langata. So for me, in Langata, in terms of what is expected of him, he has delivered, he has done well, and I think he was poised to be one of the strongest candidates to get a second term as an MP, but we wish him well in his other ambitions of being a senator.
Excellent. Right now things are happening on the ground. We have a lot of turmoils happening in ODM. Right now we see there's a group of caucus riding on the side of Oburu. We have another caucus riding on the side of Winnie. Do you think these will bring a political rift between ODM, or what's your take on that?
Well, one, we must first appreciate that ODM as a party has always had factions.
Yes.
But eventually we have always had consensus. But I think it has come a time that we have to accept that the person who used to bring the consensus is no longer there, who used to be Raila Odinga.
Yes.
Because in the real sense, Raila Odinga's shoes are too big for acting party leader Oburu Odinga to fill.
Yeah.
And therefore, it is expected that there are those who feel that actually ODM should not have a coalition with UDA, ODM should not support President William Ruto, and there are those who feel that ODM was left in the broad-based government. So we have a competing interest here between the two people, one group which want to cement Raila's legacy, led by Winnie Odinga.
Yes.
Then we have a group of Oburu Odinga, which is concerned about the progress of the party. Where does ODM find itself in 2027? It's a party meant to win elections, meant to gain power. So how does ODM prepare to get power? Whereas Winnie Odinga, Edwin Sifuna, Babu Wine and the rest are concerned about how do they preserve the Raila legacy of constitutionalism and what Raila used to fight for. So all these are competing interests within ODM. And I think, what I will have implored the party leader will not have to expel people or, discipline errant people, but will have been to look for consensus within the party so that we all agree on the things that we can achieve as ODM, because ODM has been built on a certain identity. ODM was not built on some of the things we see ODM doing today. ODM is not built on what we see, merchandise, people being branded ODM t-shirts. ODM was not built on these things we see called empowerment. ODM was strongly built on the foundation of human rights, devolution, and matters which cared about the people. So today what we see the party moving away to be a pro-people party to a pro-power party. So we must also ask ourselves and ask, as much as we discipline the errant people, where do we then, as a party, go back and retrace our steps and ask ourselves, how do we go back to the people? Because what I've seen going around by the acting party leader, our chair, Gladys Wanga, and the deputy party leader, Absuamad, all these things called Linda ground. These are things that I do not, actually, for me, believe that should actually be a priority to the party. Because what should be a priority to the party at this moment should be the unity of the party. And the unity of the party means that you accommodate even those ones that you disagree with within the party. Because expelling any of the members from the party does not help ODM. What it does, it shows ODM as a divided house.
Actually, the question has been well elaborated. We want to shift our gears now to talk about matters concerning youth and governance. Because where you sit, we know you are a youth leader in Langata constituency, organizing study in Langata constituency. Right now, there's a lot of turmoil that's happening in ODM. Do you think all these turmoils will affect the Youth League?
Yes, definitely it will affect Youth League, because Youth League is one of the organ of the party. And the turmoils that are going in the party, you can see there's a very big tug of war between the old crop of politicians in ODM and the young ones. Because what we see today, if you look at the Sifuna group and Winnie Odinga, Babu Wino, Caleb Hamisi, all these are young thugs within ODM.
Yeah.
On the other side, when you look at Oburu Odinga, these are people who are living in their sunset within ODM. So definitely the fights within ODM squarely actually affects the Youth League, both in Langata and across the country. And that actually puts the youth on a very difficult path, because it means that at some point the youths have to choose which side of the party to belong to. And we have to also ask ourselves, as youths, we must all be progressive, because if you say today, there are those who want to align with Sifuna because Sifuna and the group looks like to be the future of ODM and our political dispensation beyond 2027. There are those who want to align with Oburu Odinga because they tend to think that actually they will be able to get the trappings of power. So there is a very big debate, and I think it's something that our youths must come together and make a very formidable decision going forward on the ODM issues.
Thank you, Mr. Wanyama. Now let's pull gears and shift to the same thing we are talking about, the youth. Right now things are happening, and there's something meaning it's sending a signal. If it's yes, which signal do you think is sending to the youth? This is your camera, you can tell our viewers.
Well, what is happening in the country, I think it's a change, or generational change. And it's a political generation change that has come. And it's time that we accept that we can no longer fight the change, but we can only join the change as youths of this country, regardless of which political party you belong to, regardless of which movement you belong to, regardless of your religion. I think what is basically being communicated is, over time and again, we've had shift of generations, because we remember in the 1992, 1990, 1992, we had the issues of multi-party democracy where people fought for the second liberation. But where we stand today as a country, democratically, is that we are looking at what do we then, as the young generation, as the young people, fight for? Because our fathers, our grandmothers fought for the second liberation, which birthed the 2010 constitution, which has brought us up to here. Because we have the 2010 constitution, it has given us the freedom, it has given us all these things we enjoy. So how do we then, as young people, get to participate to be able to create our own form of liberation? And our own form of liberation will definitely be democratic liberation. They will definitely be economic liberation, because we already have a democratic liberation. So we are moving towards economic liberation, and that also informed the 2024 finance bill demonstrations of young people, because it was against the finance bill. So it means that the young people and the young generation are more inclined towards economic liberation, and what's our view about employment, and how do we move together as a country into Vision 2050.
Thank you. And Mr. Cyphrine, today on Standard newspaper, I've seen on the front page, we had a picture of the Secretary General Sifuna, and the headline was betrayed for speaking the truth.
Yes.
Yeah. Or betrayed for his boldness.
Yes.
So, meaning in ODM, we don't have like power for people to speak for their mind. Do you think this is comfortable with you guys, the young tax in ODM? Do you think like people speaking in ODM will have time to speak for yourself, speak up your mind, or you'll be rendered to silence?
Well, I think for me, one thing we must also be very clear is the muzzling of Edwin Sifuna paints very dark days for the young people within the party, because Raila Odinga, in his own wisdom, always loved and gave young people an opportunity. He never muzzled young people within the party. But we have seen a trend whereby the old guard within ODM has decided that what matters to them is 2027 election, and they are cohabiting with UDA more than what is the future of the ODM. So as young people, we are very worried, because it means that our voice will not be heard, and any descendant will be shut down because you don't agree with the party leader, or because you don't agree with some of the decisions being made within the party. So as young people, we are very worried within ODM, and as I've said earlier, is that we urge and request the party leader to embrace concurrence, to embrace consultations with young people, and even those ones that he feels opposes him, because he need to build consensus around him, so that he can also be a powerful party leader. Because as a general without soldiers, then I think you can't go to war without soldiers. He can't go to war as a general without soldiers. And we also want our party to live beyond Raila Odinga, because Raila Odinga used to tell us that he wants ODM to live beyond him, and it does not have to end with Raila Odinga. So for now, what we are seeing is ODM being muzzled and forced to end with Oburu Odinga, rather than moving forward post 2028, because we have an election in 2032. How do we prepare post 2028 as young people?
Thank you so much to our viewers. We'll be going for a commercial break. This is your host Kelvin Waswa on the Political Ringside, the biggest show in the East and Central Africa. After the show, we'll be coming back with the Raila's legacy and party direction. Thank you. So, my friend, on Raila's legacy, we want to talk something about Baba's death. And right now, we know ODM is struggling. Do you think ODM will get to identify its identity, or it will have a rough time to identify where it's supposed to be right now?
Well, Kevin, allow me for the first time maybe to say, my condolences to the family of Raila Odinga. Yeah. Some of us were very close. We knew Baba. Baba held our hand and gave us an opportunity. And Baba's death, to me, I would say it is a tragedy. A historical tragedy came to ODM.
Yes.
No one within the party was prepared for the unfortunate, occurrences. We thought Baba was going to come back and give us a direction as we agreed as a party. On living within his own, it will be very difficult for anybody to fill in Raila Odinga's shoes, because Raila Odinga was the founder of the ODM ideology.
Yeah.
Raila Odinga was the heartbeat of ODM.
Yes.
So for me, what I will always maybe advocate for is that we must then retrace ourselves.
Yes.
Because you already have the will, which is ODM.
Yes.
You already have the will, which is what Raila left us in, what he believed in. So those who have been given the highest offices, starting with the party leader, the chair of the party, and other young people within the party, have to come and ask themselves, what would Raila have done in such moments?
Yes.
What would Raila have stood for in such moments?
Yes.
And once we ask ourselves those questions, we already know the answer.
Yes.
And then how do we then ourselves, as those ones remaining with the party as party officials, ensure that we remain a pro-people party and that we remain an ideological party that has to span and live beyond these 20 years that we have been around. So for me, it is a very big loss, but ODM can still manage and can still maneuver to maintain the legacy of Raila Odinga. And I've been one of the people who have advocated for us building a Raila Odinga school of, democracy.
Yes.
So that some of these ideals are being taught.
Yes.
Through our ODM party, because ODM has resources, it has no problem putting up such kind of an institution, so that we are able to idolize some of these things that Raila fought for. So for me, it is a great loss. However, ODM, through consensus, through consultations and tolerance within the party, we can still achieve what Raila aimed us to do.
Thank you. Like right now on the ground, I think that a lot of things happening right now. The thing that I can focus right now, number one, we have been told that people pulling strings in ODM. That's my first question. My second question, if there are people pulling strings in ODM, who do you think are those people? Number three, we have been told ODM has malls. Who do you think are these malls?
Well, that's a very critical question. And it's a question that I think I will not shy away from addressing, because many people want to shy away from addressing it for the purposes of the powers be. So for me, I would say, since the death of Raila Odinga, first, we saw the state step in and, of course, give him a state funeral, which is befitting of a statesman. And we appreciate that for the government and from President William Ruto.
Yes.
However, long before Raila died, we will have seen President William Ruto issue a warning in a funeral somewhere in Nyanza, where he issued a warning to Sifuna that he will be able to call, the ODM founding members to discipline the errant Sifuna if he continues on his path of calling him to accountable and ensuring that the government is able to be accountable to the people of Kenya. And further later, after Raila demise, we've seen President William Ruto on a drive of ensuring that, he puts ODM together. We've seen him wearing merchandise which has ODM colors and UDA colors. We've seen him fast track for the first time. ODM is going to a pre-election coalition 18 months before an election. What has never happened in history, because ODM is used to going to a pre-election coalition in May, when we have 3 to 4 months of elections, and it has put its house in order. So today I would say, yes, there's an interference from outside, and the interference none other but President William Ruto.
Yes.
And I was telling some people that actually today, the core principle of ODM is President William Ruto.
Yes.
And we see what is happening. We can see the removal of Sifuna, tells you one. We have seen the whipping of Senator Maruma, the whipping of Caleb Hamisi, and soon we may likely see the impeachment of Governor James Orengo. So it tells you all of it that actually State House has a hand in what is happening. However, what I will encourage President William Ruto, and one of the things that they agreed in NADICO with our party leader, Raila Odinga, was that parties should be left to make their own decisions. We must respect multi-party democracy. If we cannot respect multi-party democracy, then there is no need of you claiming that actually you are preserving the legacy of Raila Odinga. One of the legacy of Raila Odinga was that ODM and other parties must be respected and must be allowed to operate within the law, must be operationalized by the RPP, giving them funds and ensuring that there is no political interference of other political parties. And this stemmed when the likes of Jalango defected to UDA just days after elections. And the party leader didn't like that, and that was against the tenets of multi-party democracy. So you cannot muzzle multi-party democracy that has been fought so hard by many people. And the president must also realize that the presidential term limit is 10 years. So you cannot muzzle multi-party democracy for your sake as a president for the next 10 years only. Yes. We must live. Kenya lives beyond your presidency, and it's important that state actors leave ODM alone as a party to make its decision, because what we see in ODM today, it is an external interference from the state, and this is what will eventually kill ODM by creating these other factions. We have seen a faction of another gentleman called Okech Salah emerging, someone who only emerged after Raila's death, someone that the party has completely dissociated with himself. So these are the state doing, and we hope and pray that ODM members and ODM leadership will be strong enough to say no to state mechanization within ODM.
And on the same, Mr. Cyphrine, we have seen you mentioning the name Okech Salah. And on the ground, we have seen these people, Raila's loyalists. Let's say Okech Salah, the likes of Millicent, Gladys Wanga. They are donning the UDA ODM brands. Even the last time we saw the president in Nyeri donning a cape, slogan UDA and ODM. Do you think that ODM is shifting to the Kenya Kwanza government? And if it's yes, what about the people? Because we know ODM is prone to being a party led by the people, for the people, by the people. But right now you guys are shifting to the other side of Kenya Kwanza. What about the people?
Well, first, ODM was built to be people's party. And even before capturing power, Raila always insisted on ensuring that as a party, we move with the people, and as a party, we remain the people's party. We do not have a problem with the parties preparing for elections. And one of the issue how party prepare for elections is they also prepare for coalition formations. However, what I see today in ODM is whereby we have boardroom decisions being forced downwards to the people. Our late party leader used to consult the people first before making decisions. But what we see today with the party is whereby the party highest decision-making organs, the NEC, sits down, decides they want to form a coalition with UDA, ratifies it by themselves, then comes down and forces it to the people. And that's one thing that will make ODM in 2027 have a very difficult task to convince the people that actually it still stands for the people. As for Kenya Kwanza, it has a duty to the people because President William Ruto is accountable to the people of Kenya. He's today the President of the Republic of Kenya. And therefore, he has to account to Kenyans. And ODM does not need to be part of the people enabling some of the things that we see in government. On the other side, actually, ODM has been premised as an opposition party. So we expect it to call the president to order, to call the government to accountability, and they have to hold the government accountable, not just in parliament, but also outside parliament. So ODM must come back to the people because ODM has moved away to be a power-hungry kind of an engagement or adventure rather than where it has stood for the people. Because you look at the issues we are facing, challenge you're facing in education, challenge you're facing in health. No one within the ODM is speaking about it. But if they let Raila Odinga will be here, those will be his first priority. So I want to always call upon our party leader to go back to the people and ensure that any form of engagement, even coalition building, has to begin with the people first. Then the organs of the party will make their decisions after the people have given their comments, they have given their contribution, and after a thorough public participation.
To our viewers, we're almost coming to the end of our show. This is your host, Kelvin Waswa, on Political Ringside, the biggest show in Eastern Central Africa. And on our show today, we are joined by a young, vibrant leader by the name Cyphrine Wanyama. So we are talking about the removal of Sifuna.
Yes.
If it's going to strengthen or weaken ODM. What is your take on that, Mr. Cyphrine?
Okay, for me, as I've said, removal of any member from ODM at this transition moment is a catastrophe. So Edwin Sifuna was arguably one of the most consequential Secretary General, not just in ODM, but all political parties in this country, because we have not had as vibrant, dedicated, intelligent Secretary General like Edwin Sifuna post-2010 constitution. And I think removing Sifuna has its own brand consequential to ODM, because there are those people who actually identify with Sifuna. And Sifuna, to be honest, Sifuna has not committed a crime. What Sifuna has always called for, it has exactly called for what is expected to do as a Secretary General. So there have been those who say maybe perhaps because he does not agree with President William Ruto, that has been the root of his removal, because him calling for the implementation of the 10-point agenda, that is one thing that he has to do as a Secretary General. And we remember very well, he was at the KICC where the 10-point agenda was being signed by the late party leader and President William Ruto. So Sifuna's removal and any form of removal of other members who in their wish want ODM to progress, want ODM to fill a presidential candidate and have its own brand beyond 2027 is a loss to ODM. And
on the same, Mr., we have seen on the internet is buzzing. We have a lot of people talking, they're talking a lot. Because we know Sifuna, the time he introduced himself, Mimi ni Sifuna. But now the things have shifted. Sisi ni Sifuna. It means like the people are speaking. Do you think the Sifuna's removal from ODM will lead to a lot of people defection from ODM?
Well, having been a young and seasoned politician and having campaigned in politics and perhaps ran before, I think there's a very big difference between social media and what happens on the ground. We've seen before, social media, people will whip emotions and will say a lot of things. But what Sifuna now requires is him being pragmatic, is him asking himself as Sifuna, I've been removed as SG of ODM. Do I fight? If I fight, what is the outcome? If I decide to walk out of ODM, then what will be the outcome? So for me, Edwin Sifuna will receive a lot of sympathies online, but that can never translate to what the people on the ground will say. Yeah. So he has to be very practical, he has to relate with the people, and he has to calm down and ask if indeed the supporters of Raila Odinga who are on the ground, and we see what is online. Some of these people online, they have varied opinions. In the era of the internet, everyone will say their opinion and then go back. But how many of these people are ODM members? That's the question he has to ask himself. How many of these people, if he called for a rally today, will show up and support him? And how many of these people are registered voters in Nairobi, where he's a senator today? That if they called to run for a senator or resign and say you want to run for senator, he'll be elected. So those are the questions he has to ask himself first before relying on the sympathies and the emotions being done online by Kenyans across board.
Our last question, our guest. We surely know that the apple does not fall away from the tree. On this old scenario, we have that Baba's favorite. At the time Baba was in India, alikuwa na Winnie hapo. And on this picture, atuoni Winnie mahali. Right now we have a crack in ODM. Tuko na ile side wako na side ya Winnie, we have the other side wako side ya Mzee, youth leader. What is your take on that?
I think leo tumeona Winnie akitokea. Leo tumeona Winnie ametokea kwa ile press conference imekuwa. So ni kitu ambayo inasema a lot kuhusu where the Odinga family stands.
Yeah.
And as I said in the start, kuna wale wase within the Odinga family who feel that they need to preserve Raila's legacy. And Winnie is one of the people who Baba has groomed and one of the people who has been very close to Raila Odinga. For those of us who interact with Baba, she will always be like a bodyguard or a personal assistant to our late party leader. So Winnie coming out with Sifuna speaks volumes, and we've also seen comments made by Raila Jr. about Sifuna's Ouster. So I think, as we said, time will tell which way ODM on matters of the Winnie Odinga group and Sifuna. But as for now, the other team, which is within ODM led by the party leader, is in Mombasa doing their Linda ground initiatives. So what I want to say is, I wish my young brothers, my elder brothers and sisters, that they take time to consult. They should also not run very fast, because sometimes when you run very fast, you risk, getting injured or hurt when, even the race is not yet over. So they should consult, and they should also accept to be guided and consult from those who have been in such positions before and those who have been in such situations before, because we need a united ODM. We need ODM to live beyond our late party, Raila Odinga.
Thank you, Mr. Cyphrine. This has been a great show with your host, Kelvin. Right now, this is your camera. You have less than a minute. You have less than a minute. Tell young tax, ODM young tax, something. Less than a minute.
Well, to ODM young tax, I want to tell them that the party is still alive. What is happening in ODM is what defines ODM. People should not be worried. All of us should come together, rally together, and ensure that we build ODM, as Baba used to say, vijana ndio jeshi ya baba. So jeshi ya baba lazima tuhakikishe kuwa legacy ya Raila Odinga inasonga mbele bila kuangalia ni nani yuko pale juu, kwa sababu lazima chama kiishi na kisonge mbele beyond 2027.
Asante sana to our viewers. This has been a much interview. I'm your host Kelvin Waswa. Kindly subscribe, like and comment. Idios.